Okay, with Laurie Gruber, winning screenwriter from the Raven's Choice. It's from the Romance and Relationships Film Festival. Usually I end the film with the I end the podcast with the question, what film have you watched the most times in your life from the blog interview? And you said Princess Bride, and I have a feeling that this script was like Princess Bride was an influence or a big influence for you
It
in the
was. I
script.
mean, in the movie The Princess Bride, the bad guy gets it, the good guy wins.
Yeah.
And that's I've always liked those kinds of stories.
The
The
bad guy
little
gets in the good,
that's
right, well, which are most stories, I guess, right?
yep. And it's always I like to have that little bit of mystery so you don't know exactly who the bad person is until you know.
But it's like, but you've created this world, right? You've created
Correct.
this, yeah, that. So it's a fantasy with drama. It's a drama fantasy or a fantasy
Yeah.
drama.
It's based around fictional times. I'm not
Yeah,
fictional times, historical times with
yeah,
fictional people.
yeah. Historical fiction is a big trend I'm seeing in the last like couple years.
Yes, it is. And that's why I
Yeah.
thought it was like the perfect time. Always loved those kinds of books, and the kinds that I like to read aren't necessarily out there anymore because my favorite author that wrote those kinds of books passed away. So I'm like, okay, there's a hole here. And yeah, with things like Downton Abbey and Bridgerton's and a lot of those other ones being so famous or so popular on TV, I just felt that was mine were kind of up that same alley.
So you started as a novelist.
Yes.
I can see that. So you read all those books behind your shoulder there. Have you read all those books?
Most of them, not all of them, but most of them.
Are some of them yours?
Actually, they're all, well, yes, there are six of them back there that are mine.
Awesome. So, okay, you started as a novelist, and obviously you're well read. And what kind of propelled you to kind of write a screenplay?
Well, again, like I said, the fact that people have been finding shows like Bridgerton's and
Yeah.
Poldark, Downton Abbey, they're really popular. I think a lot of people want to see how society was created and what things went into that. Um, and again, I was trying to find a good storyline to build it around. I mean, there's so many shows and movies that are being redone over and over and over and over again with just
Yeah.
different characters, and I'm like, we need something different.
Is
So,
this your first like screenplay?
yes,
Okay. So that's so
and
you motivated because it's a transition going from writing a script to writing a novel, right? Like less is
correct,
more. You write in the moment, right?
right. And then I had people that helped with the screenplay that are connected with Page Publishing, because we only did like the first 15 minutes. It was supposed to be like a teaser to get people interested, so then we can get the rest of it done. So I
Yeah.
wanted to see if there was any interest that way. So
Do you like writing screenplays?
it's different than writing the actual novel. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to try. I try to write creating a picture so that the reader can see the picture as they're reading that book.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we'll get better with turning them into screenplays. And like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the people that helped for for that first part.
And how do they help?
They actually took my novel and we worked on which part we wanted to try to do it with. And then they had an actual girl that does the writing, and then it comes back to me, and then I approve it and changes and things like that back and forth until we were both satisfied.
What motivated you to submit to festivals like us? Like you just wanted to see reactions, see what it was like, where it was.
That's a big part of it, is trying to get the reaction to see if there's any interest out there. Again, the people that helped also encouraged it. They said that, if I could start going to film festivals or university drama departments, because of the fact that, like you said, my characters are well-rounded. They make for a good screenplay, but people don't have a lot of screenplays from what they told me. And so it was just encouraged me to do it.
And so do you have like so this do you want this to be a series?
Yes. Maybe
Do
make
you have
like a
like
nice miniseries like Bridgerton's.
yeah. So but do you have the miniseries like you have the pilot completed and then you have the miniseries kind of mapped out?
Yes, but we actually only have like the first 15 minutes of the first novel done.
Okay.
We got to do the rest of it. And then there are six novels that are already published. Seventh one is in editing. And I'm writing book 8 right now, which is kind of like the tail end of that series. There might be a few spin-offs, but
So this is a world that you just created. Like how long have you been like how many years ago did you create this world?
I want to say 7 or 8 years. I'd have to go back to the first book and look at when I actually published it.
And when did you get this idea for this world?
Um, well, I mean, if you mentioned that it's author that passed away, a lot of her books were similar. I like I like being able to write something that my mother and my mother-in-law can read and I'm not going to be embarrassed. Okay.
That's the that's the grade, the high grade right there is your
Yeah.
mother-in-law. Okay.
And
Okay.
I started reading those types of books probably at 12, 13, 14. So it really got me interested in history. It got me interested in creativity. And I want to be able to do that for that next generation. I have friends that are high school and middle school librarians who encourage them to read my books and do
Okay.
projects on my books because the fact that they know that those are clean books and it'll get kids interested in history.
What era are we in this book? In the
Victorian.
script?
Victorian.
Victorian. So what century, what area? Like
It's 1865 is the first book.
okay.
The third book is at the end of our Civil War. So it's connection between England and the US
Yeah.
with our Civil War. So it goes through this whole thing. And I always want to see, I'm sure you've read books too, where it's like, okay, but what happened to that character? He was a
Yeah.
sub character. I want to know what happens to him in his life. So that's what started me down the road of doing the other ones, is because I wanted to see how those characters played out.
It's also an interesting time, right? So,
Yeah, Queen Victoria was very, very powerful. And she was also very hated by a lot of countries. And a lot of people don't know that. So even by her own kids, some of them, which a
well,
lot of
yeah.
people don't realize led to World War One, that were,
They did
because
colonize a lot of countries. Yeah. So,
yes, they
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But her grandson was Kaiser Wilhelm in Germany,
Yeah.
and the Tsar in Russia. Those were all her grandchildren, and the
Yeah.
Prince of Wales, and they hated each other. So it's interesting to see when you go back and look at it, the makeup of how these politics and world history got going.
Yeah.
And
But we have to point out that if you're the Queen or King of England, you're a lot more powerful than you are now, I guess, right? So,
correct. She was an empress, not
so
just the Queen of England. So
yeah,
yep.
they're just where I don't even know if they have any
Now they're
power.
just a figurehead.
Yeah.
Things for
So,
political scandals and stuff like that, gossip.
who knows how long that's going to last?
Right.
But the English like it though, right? They like that kind of.
Yes,
They
they
want
like
the
having that figurehead.
Some of them do. Most of them do, I guess, right? So because the Crown was a huge show, but I guess that's more,
That's true. That was another one. It was a big show. Yep.
but that's more nonfiction than fiction, I guess, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, but we were fascinated by this, but then it's showing that kind of era because we learned a lot about the Civil War, of course, right? There's been tons of movies about it, but what happens next, right? Well, what's after it? Like we don't have that many stories about that, right?
Correct. And when I talk about and some of the books explore the difference between pirates and privateers, and how that formed in the shipping industry. And
Yeah.
so some of that's in books 3 through 7. So there's a lot
And
of
that's obviously a huge injury. It set up kind of the cities, right? If you look at the cities of the world, it all kind of starts with the shipping, right?
correct. And a lot of people don't understand the difference, even like in the United States, the CIA versus the FBI, where they can work, where they can't, what they're made up of. Well, England has the same types of governmental type offices with the Home Office, the Foreign Office. So it's the combination and how they're working together, and even intelligence in Wisconsin, in the United States, with the Pinkertons, and they didn't really have a good form or way of collecting information. So some of that's part of these books too.
So yeah, it's like it's the birth of like, well, it's been around for a while, but it's capitalism, kind of like the Renaissance is starting, I guess, right?
We have the telegram system with the underground cables, and how they took this world, that even the Suez Canal, which you took, the trip from England to India, it used to take months, and now
Mhm.
it like 8 days or whatever it is, because they can go through the Suez Canal if you're going by ship.
Yeah. And most ships now are cargo, I guess, right? So
Correct.
it's still a huge industry. It's just that we don't ship people anymore. We fly.
Correct. The people that ship now are either the workers or the people that are on the cruises.
Yeah.
You know.
I always wanted to do that, even though I always wanted to be a merchant marine when I was like a teenager.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
just for a year. I probably would have regretted it the second I boarded. That's why I didn't do it. But
Me
just
too. I
as
probably get pretty seasick on a ship like that. Although ships
it's
have
more
changed a
about the
lot from
grind, I
back
guess,
then.
right? Homesickness,
Correct.
the grind. Yeah. Like because you're going back a century if you do that job, right?
Scurvy. Yep. Yeah, you're
Is
going back
scurvy
quite.
still happening?
If you're out on the sea without proper citric,
Yeah, but that's don't they take care of you?
well, yeah, there you hope.
Yeah. So when was the printing press invented?
Mm, I'd have to go back and look. It was in that same century. Everything was that century was so
Yeah,
big.
so but
That
but
was when the
the printing
typewriter
press
was
was
done, everything.
but in your era there's newspapers and things are happening or
Correct. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of the birth of it in a sense in a lot of ways.
That time, yeah, in that time period. Like you said, the
Yeah.
Renaissance. I mean, that's all of it. Like they said, the typewriter, the telegraph, the,
Yeah.
printing
It's
press.
almost like the kids these days, and let's call them kids. That's how they learn. They don't like they only will learn by watching, like I said, Bridgerton or whatever. Like that's how they're gonna learn this era. They're not gonna read about it. I'm being general, of course, but yeah.
True. But I mean, it blows your mind when you think of it. I got a laptop I'm talking to you on. I've got a desk computer right here and my phone, smartphone.
Yeah.
When we were kids, I mean, like the first computer was like 1980, personal
Yeah.
computer. And I mean, that's just floors me
But you
that
didn't have the
there's been
internet.
that
Like
much change in our lifespan.
yeah, I know. I had a computer. We had a computer 82, and that's when the VCR came as well. And little did I know that that's like that those two things change a lot of things. And but then the internet didn't come for another 15 years. So you just played video games and typed and stuff like that on the game on the
Yeah.
computer, right?
Addicted to it. We're the fun house. Everybody comes here to play games. So
Yeah. So yeah, so it's obviously you're on to something with the script. So you only wrote the first 15 pages,
first 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
Hmm. It's like the prologue of the
Yeah.
book.
And is your publishing company they're trying to pitch it elsewhere, like to different places and
Correct. They're trying to pitch it and then encourage me to submit it as many places as I can. And then I'm going to look into like some creative writing grants to help pay for hiring someone to help me do the rest of it. And then the
yeah,
next ones. And five of my novels are also an audiobook and ebooks, all of them in ebooks as well. But I want to get them so that they're well rounded so everybody can, no matter what their platform is that they like to read on, they
yeah.
have that option.
Well, audio books. What do you feel about audiobooks? It's people are. I heard the other day that people are listening to books more than they're reading now.
Well, I mean, you look behind me, like I said, I do a lot of reading, but
Yeah,
I'm also on the road and I can't read when I'm driving.
yeah.
So then I'm listening to books.
Hmm. I listen to a book a week,
Yep.
like because I when I'm working, right? Like it's like I can't read it, so I can listen to it while I'm working, right?
Yeah.
Is everything
Yeah,
okay back there?
exactly. Exactly. I mean, I put on like I like listening to serial stories, so if
Yeah,
one gets done, I go on to the next one because I hate shows that end up with to be continued. Same with
yeah.
books. So I want to be able to listen to it right away.
So you're very proficient. That's amazing. So were you always like a writer when you were a kid? Like, is that something that you always like
Yeah, I
were?
did a lot of writing in English classes and things like that. Did more reading than any writing.
Yeah.
I was always had a book in my hand. Rode the bus for an hour. I read a book all the way to school and all the way home. So I've always been reading. This is just a part of what books I have.
Yeah. What's the book that everybody should read besides
I'll,
yours? Besides your
I'll be
own.
of mine or of someone
Besides
else's.
your own. Besides your own.
Hmm. I'm kind of addicted to Narnia. I'm kind of
Oh,
addicted to
really? Okay.
the Left Behind series.
Left
Um,
Behind. Okay.
there's a lot of series like that I really like to listen to. Like I said, I love the creativity and imagination of these authors. I also like is it Grisham that does
John Grisham. Yeah.
the Jack Ryan books, the
Yeah,
spies. I wanted to work for the CIA, so I like listening to spy novels as well, or reading spy novels. So again, the
gotcha.
good guy wins, bad guy
You like
loses.
the adventure. You like the kind of like the fantasy adventure kind of like,
Hmm.
yeah, the journey, the quest.
I got my interview with the CIA. They told me I was too nice. I
They
probably
actually
should.
said that to you.
Yeah, they probably have a different idea now, though, after I've been a union organizer for 30 years. But
Would is being a union organizer a good thing or a bad thing for the
I
CIA?
think it's a good thing, but you have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for other people. Which is kind of the reason even behind submitting your book to a publisher, submitting your book to the screenwriter, the festivals. You got to be able to stand up for yourself. And a lot of people out there don't know how to fight for themselves.
That's what the union's for.
Yep. And
So
I'm
what union are you do you represent?
office and professional employees.
Oh wow. I was a union, I was assistant shop steward back in my grocery store days.
Oh, cool. UFCW.
Yeah. And then we United Food and Commercials working, and then we went to there afterwards when we switched stores.
And I'm a secretary for an 11 county labor council too, recording secretary. I'm also an elected official. It's like they always say the busy people are the ones that get things done. It's like I want to retire so that I can write full time.
Gotcha. Well, we our union died on the vine. They
Oh,
destroyed our union in the 90s. That's a story to tell as well.
that's not good. My husband and I are both
Because
union,
when what
so
happened was that Walmart came in, Home Depot came in, they basically non-unionized everything, and basically they brought in like vendors to do all the work on the shelves and stuff, and then people the art stores started getting less populated, and then basically the union crumbled, right? So they
it was
had to.
done. I still work with a couple of UFCW locals, but you're right. There are not a lot of them out there anymore. And I haven't shopped at a Walmart in over 25 years, and I'm proud to be able to say that I haven't shopped
Yeah,
there.
that's kind of a bull. Yeah, and but it's interesting to see what happened though. And like I'm not listen, you're a union person, but I'm not. I wasn't proud. I didn't like what they were doing either, right? So that's a whole other story to tell. And my
Well, unions,
dad,
they're only as strong as
dad,
they make as we make them. If people don't stand behind them and don't do the things that are conscientious and to get things done for the right reasons,
yeah,
then
it's sometimes it's like Animal Farm where the union becomes they want to be the corporation,
yep.
and you see that
And
with
at,
some
at
of
a
the
at a
personalities.
at a point, there was a time where unions were very crooked, and I'd be the first one, being like I said, being a history minor, the first one to admit that there was a time that happened. So it's time now for us to come back and build strong, and now that we
Hopefully.
got off
Because
the
I'm old enough to remember that the people, not even the managers, the full-time people work produce. They could have a house, they have a wife, a house, they have kids, and basically they live like a middle class life. That's gone. That world doesn't exist anymore, right? So, and then it's like they little by little in the 80s and 90s, they destroyed the union. I saw it. My dad was going to point out. My dad was. I saw the other side. My dad was executive at GM, and they had battles with their union all the time, and basically eventually they're like, we're not doing this anymore. Like I'm actually not, I'm ashamed of the GM in a way, right? But they
we
paid for
have a
my
we have
education,
a
but
UAW that's on strike right now in Wisconsin. So
yeah. And basically, but I saw them little by little destroy that union, and they didn't see it coming either. That's the sad part about it.
I think a big difference, like I said, too, is the education. I mean, the company that I work for is union from the CEO down. You don't have that fight. We're all on the same side.
Yeah,
So
where do you see that? You don't see that anywhere,
no,
except for
that's
I
why
guess
I've
civil
left this
servants. I
company
guess.
after 31 years.
That's amazing. But you never want to write that story though.
Well, there's a lot of those stories back there, and I take part in a lot of rallies and things like that in the state,
Yeah,
um, to be a voice for people and fight for people's rights. People, that's a lot of what reform is about, is making, and that's covered in some of these books too, is the reform with
yeah,
the children that were used for child labor in at that time span. I mean, I grew up on a farm. Of course we worked, but it's different
yeah,
when you send a kid out to work in a factory.
yeah. Well, it's happening in other countries now, right?
Correct.
So, yeah. So it seems like you got like that's the great thing. Like what works best for those shows is like Bridgerton and even The Crown, where basically you're watching it, but it's thematically purposeful to today's time. So it makes sense watching the historical events take place. It kind of everything kind of ties thematically to what's happening now,
No,
right?
it's like, where did it come from? And that's those shows will show you this is where it came from.
Exactly. But we can relate emotionally to the journey, right? So yeah.
Correct.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck with the script. I think
Thank
it's
you.
fantastic. And yeah, keep writing if you can. And let's talk again when it's made into a TV show.
Sounds like a plan.